Our guy, Greg Sankey, he's getting it done. Let's squad up.
You're talking ball with the SEC Squad, sponsored by Game Time. From Alabama to Tennessee, from Georgia to Oklahoma, from Auburn to Texas, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming SEC weekend. It's the SEC Squad, and we have a seat for you. Hurt feelings and thin skin are prohibited. Squad up, you're part of the SEC Squad.
Yes, this is the SEC Squad. No Chris Gordy, though. I'm Zach Blackerby, host of Locked On Auburn, filling in for Gordy. Stephen Willis, Locked On Ole Miss. John Miller, Locked On Mizzou. Jimmy Stein, Locked On Bama. Chris Marler, host of Locked On Gamecocks. Corey Burton, host of Locked On Vandy. And Clint Shamblin, the host of Locked On Bulldogs. Gentlemen, we'll talk about a few hypotheticals as well as maybe guess where our fearless leader, Chris Gordy, is. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he's hanging out with Greg Sankey. Maybe he's watching Joe Burrow highlights. I don't know.
He's unicorn farming.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But guys, Greg Sankey, I mean, just getting up at the podium and saying, like, yeah, I've got guys in the room asking me, like, why are we even in or a part of the NCAA? He's getting a lot of hate. I think he's asking the questions that a lot of us have been asking for years.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct, Zach. I did a show today on this specific topic. You can catch that at Locked On Ole Miss. I'm not going to re-air all of those grievances, but it is absolutely correct that the way it is currently set up, the SEC is at its disadvantage. You are in a situation to where the ACC and the Big 12 have an unjust amount of power over the SEC and the Big 10 because they can yell louder. And Greg Sankey and the Big 10, they're kind of putting their truth on it, and they're finally putting their foot down because the last time they did something for the good of the game, we ended up with that 12-team playoff with Boise State and Arizona State with an automatic bye.
For the good of the game. Yeah, he's about ready to be done with the NCAA. He's just looking for that one edge to say, you know what, I'm out. See ya.
Yeah, it was stupid. When everybody saw this, talk about unintended consequences, how could people that made this not see it coming? All of us saw this coming. When all of these rules were in place and the change came, we knew the second that you have the seat of power and the things favor you, you get to be in control. And now Greg Sankey understands. I don't know why the NCAA is still even a thing. They are useless right now. They don't enforce any rules. When they do enforce rules, they go above and beyond what's even necessary. They are like that cousin that you have to invite to Thanksgiving dinner because your mom told you to, but nobody wants them at the dinner table. That's what the NCAA is like right now.
Well, they're so afraid of a lawsuit. If they do any sort of, ruling for years, that people just took it. But now it's like, hey, looking at you, Diego Pavia, I'm just going to sue you. And they'll say, no, my bad. My bad. And it's just been this crazy precedent that's been set.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're just they're terrified. And, Cam Newton told them to shove it, and you saw what happened with that too. And, just when you fight the NCAA, they back down. They're spineless. And I think we're very much on the verge of a Big Ten SEC power conference here. And I don't know.
Well, certainly, I think Corey is definitely onto something, especially if the other powers that be, I'll just say the others largely being everybody outside of the SEC and Big Ten.
G8.
Because, there's a lot of rivalry among the fans of those two conferences, but right now, behind the scenes, they're on the same page, seemingly, with with this new playoff format. That's a scary thought if you're in the Big 12, if you're in the ACC, even if you're Notre Dame, honestly, because there's only so many spots that are going to be available if indeed it goes to a super league, whatever you want to call it. So you better just kind of sit back and be quiet if you want to be in this thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Greg, when he came out and said what do you mean for the good? If we had done any playoff format, you choose the format. The SEC is still ruling everything. Like, why aren't you guys not understanding this? And we are the butter to the bread. Like, SEC and our teams here make college football go. So you make whatever rules you want. I am currently the most important commissioner of all commissioners, of all whatever you want to call these patriarchs of every conference that they have. He has the power seat. He's in the driver's seat, and he gets to start making things as he wants. And he could talk about not having unanimous, but at the end of the day, dollars and viewership wins, and the SEC has it all. Even Ohio State's best season, even the Big Ten best season, doesn't even compare to the SEC.
I mean, is Greg Sankey the most influential person in college athletics right now? Jimmy, I know you'll say it's Nick Saban, but everybody else.
March Vanning.
Absolutely. Then Nick Saban. Nick Saban will be the vice president.
He's up there.
I was going to say Ryan Williams, actually. But
did you know he's probably 18 now?
Now that he's 18, Ryan Williams is in charge.
Yeah. Chris Marlowe, what were you doing all day when all this was going down?
Not watching Vanderpump Rules, for one. Two, I've been fighting with Big Ten fans online all day, which is like a pretty normal occurrence for me. And I think that the frustrating part of this for me is this. Sankey, this idea that the SEC gets what they want all the time. They get their way every single year. We're living in a year where we're less than 6 months removed from the SEC not getting their way. We watched an 11-1, an 11-2 SMU team with 0 wins over top 25 opponents and the number 75 ranked strength of schedule in the country get into the playoff over an SEC team. We watched Boise State with 1 win over a ranked opponent, which came in their very last game of the season, the conference championship, and the number 86 ranked strength of schedule get a 3 seed. And we're crying about the SEC somehow getting their way.
Yeah.
I think that's really well said, Marler.
Yeah.
I think that's really well said. So, I mean, what do you guys think a realistic timeline is for whatever the next step might be? I mean, I know we're in this talking stage, but I mean, it seems like there's going to be amendments to this 12-team playoff and all of that. But what's next, do you think? And we got to assume that Sankey and the SEC will lead it.
Media days.
Yeah.
Something always breaks at media days. That's when we're going to find out that there's 4 automatic qualifiers for the SEC, the whole 9 yards, the whole format, everything about it. The SEC is going to get every single thing that they want this time because, like I said last time, whenever they tried to do for the good of the game, you end up with SMU in there and Arizona State and Boise State as a 3 and a 4 seed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think ACC and Big 12 is going to go along with it at the end of the day because really they don't have any other choice, in my opinion. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, what's their choice?
They don't have one.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite development on all of this, just because they're kind of quietly going along with it. But for years, guys, they're like, no, we're on the same level as you guys. We are. And now they're just taking it. And it's been kind of nice to see.
It has been great to see. 100%.
Now, the next question is this. Like, when they do get their way with the 4 automatic qualifiers, now that Sankey's let this kind of out that he's thinking about breaking away, does everything that goes against the SEC now resurface that conversation of, is it time now for the SEC to break away? Like, are we going to get in that pattern?
It'll be delayed. It honestly will be delayed. I think it'll be a situation to where there's going to be the 4 automatic qualifiers. That's going to happen. You're going to have the Big Ten SEC Challenge. You're going to have the cross-divisional game where South Carolina and Clemson play every single year because non-conference games will not hurt you.
Matter anymore.
Yeah. And once that happens and it's the conference things, you're going to have a TV product of a lot of great games, a lot of great inventory, and a playoff that has Fox and ESPN at the table, and they're going to NFL-like this bad boy.
I'm all for it.
We're in a unique spot where the SEC doesn't need the ACC or the Big 12 or even the NCAA, but they all need the SEC.
Right.
The Big 12 and the ACC aren't going to make enough money unless they are tethered to the SEC in some way.
Yeah.
And the question right now is, how much of this leverage is Greg Sankey willing to use for the benefit of his league? Because he represents the SEC. He doesn't represent college football.
I was just going to say, go ahead and just the second Greg says, all right, we'll let you play in our league or our conference, go ahead. You got to go ahead and cash up some equity up front, some purchase power up that is going to make boom for these contracts. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze really quick. I got a little pepper in my nose. Sorry.
No, sneeze it out, man.
My dog.
It out. We'll wait.
No, I'm sorry. I just didn't want to be seen. But yeah, it's thank you. I appreciate that.
Handle that.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think you're exactly right. The SEC has the steering wheel firmly in its grip. What's the next iteration? Rivalries are dead. I just say goodbye to those. Rivalries are dead, which is a shame. You're going to get them every once in a while to make viewership happen, but they're going to decrease entirely. Because like you've all said already, out of conference, don't lose. That's all you got to do. Just don't lose. Get through your conference. And if you
get the automatic qualifiers, it doesn't matter.
The SEC championship, I was talking about this. Alabama, I think, I promise you I'm not making this up. I think Alabama wins the SEC, but gets the SEC championship this year and doesn't need to win it and takes their foot off of the brake or takes their foot off the gas this year. The changes, I think, could come rapidly and quickly on this. That's what's going to wind up happening. If you get an automatic bid, automatic buy, it doesn't matter anymore what happens in the championship games. All it matters is 11 games or 10 games, or whatever the regular season winds up being, and people can go ahead and take a buy for 3-4 weeks at that point.
Marler, go ahead. Marler, real quick. I saw you raise your hand. That was super, super polite of you to do. Go ahead, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Yeah, well, real quick, Clint, make sure we clip that soundbite, because if Georgia ends up beating Alabama, I want that to be saved so we can rub it in Clint's face as soon as that happens. He's to blame. Here's the funny part of this whole thing from a national standpoint. All these people that are crying about, well, the Big Ten plays 9 conference games. The Big 12 plays 9 conference games. What's going to happen, I will guarantee you right now, there is no chance they're going to sign anything that says we're going to play a 9-game conference schedule unless it guarantees them 4 spots in the playoffs. So the moment all these fans that have whined about them not playing a 9-game conference schedule, the moment that comes into play is the same moment you're going to get guaranteed 4 spots plus anything at large in the playoff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad point at all. So if the SEC does get 4 teams in, let's play a game. Let's play a little scenario as far as if that were to happen this year, which 4 SEC teams might benefit the most? That's next, right here on the SEC Squad. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Can y'all imagine using anything other than FanDuel? I can't. No way. No way. When you look at the odds for who to win the College World Series, it's all SEC teams, and then like North Carolina's in there. The Razorbacks leading the way at plus 470. LSU, Vandy.
No love for the number 1 overall seed. Okay.
No, y'all have the 3rd best odds, which is interesting. I'm a little surprised by that.
Okay.
Texas is there at plus 1,000. The Tennessee Vols at plus 1,200. Auburn's kind of a few spots back. So right now is a great time to get on the action with FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, head over there, FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 benefit wins. You get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making the SEC Squad your first listen every single day. Be sure to check out all of our local shows. They're all great. I think we do a pretty good job. So if the SEC does get 4 automatic qualifiers in, and let's just play a hypothetical. This isn't going to happen this year, but let's say it did. Which 4 teams do you guys think would be the 4 automatic qualifiers this season if it went into play?
Well, that would depend on if the Playin Games actually come into fact.
That's
fruition.
True.
Yeah.
For the sake of the exercise, let's say the Playin Games don't. Let's just say it's the top 4 teams.
I think the most important team for a 4-team automatic qualifier is probably LSU, if we're going to be honest.
Gordy's not even here, and we're doing this.
I'm doing this because
LSU, and he's not even here.
Because he's not here, I'm doing this.
Now it feels like an SEC Squad show.
Yeah,
I like that.
Now we're
when you have a quarterback returning that can't be overstated. When you look at most everybody in this room, there's not a lot of quarterbacks coming back. They have an innate advantage. They have Barry Brown, who's an elite wide receiver that transferred from Kentucky. They have a chance to be very dangerous. I think with 4 automatic qualifiers, they are sitting pretty, and they don't have the questions that maybe somebody like Alabama, Ty Simpson can be great, or Georgia, who knows who's going to play quarterback there this year, or
Austin Simmons at Ole Miss.
Yeah, there's questions all over the SEC. There's not questions at LSU at the quarterback position, and without the questions at the quarterback position, it happens.
All right, so LSU, who are your other 3, Steven?
Texas, Georgia, and Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be most people's picks, right?
Yeah, I think that's
anybody see a team not one of those four.
I think that's the obvious triumvirate for me, and then I could go wild card number 4 pretty easily. To me, I'm disappointed with you, Steve, and I thought we were in agreement that this is going to be the wildest SEC season, and then you're going chalk with LSU and Garrett Nussmeier.
It is, but Arch Manning has Manning in his name, and you can't leave him off the list.
You know, I
know.
If you do,
they will come for you.
Not only is
They
Manning
are.
in his name, it is his name.
I genuinely am busting your chops, but I think Nussmeier makes all the sense in the world, especially you look at the projections. I think Ole Miss might be right in there in that tier, but to me, throw in Tennessee, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and yes, even Missouri. I think any of those teams I could see sneaking in there. I really do.
How great would the theater be if the play-in games happened this year? It's uncertain.
It'd be awesome. I can't wait.
I think the play-in games are going to be a must for the SEC. Yeah. It seems like by all indications.
You get more teams involved. You get more better recruiting, more money. Obviously,
almost every game in November will matter if it's all about the top 6.
You know, both things could play out to be true, which is that it ends up pretty chalk: Alabama, Texas, Georgia, LSU. But more wide open in the sense that it's those 4 teams, but with more losses than everyone anticipates. That maybe a couple of them even have 3 losses and get in under this crazy hypothetical. But I think it could be wide open, but end up chalky.
Yeah. The one team to me that stands out from this is South Carolina. South Carolina, to me, with 4 bids, that's the team that I would go to if you're going to get me betting odds, because I'm going to get juice on that money line or on that line. They get in because all it takes is, like you're saying, within striking distance into the season. And if you got a returning quarterback, like you said, Sellers comes back. I think he's the best quarterback. Yes, I know Nussmeier's there. I would take Sellers over him right now. I think I would have them in the play on probably at the 4 of the 4 teams.
And the best defensive player in college football.
Hands down. Not even close.
Yep. Yeah, it's a dangerous team.
I like hands down the best defensive player in college football. I mean, I think he's really talented. I just based on production, that seems like quite a. I think
Caleb Downs at Ohio State would be up there. It's just rare that you would say that about a safety. I am, because that hurt. Every time I talk about Ryan, I've got to talk the other side, which is Caleb Downs. But he is. It's rare to talk about a safety like that, though. That a safety might be the best defensive player. That hardly ever happens. But in his case, it could be true.
I mean, true objectivity from Jimmy Stein right there. I mean,
Stewart's
what a
ability
great
to
move there.
is uncanny, man. Like what he does to opposing quarterbacks is ridiculous. And
I will say this too. Stewart is awesome. I love Stewart, but the one thing he's not going to have this year is Kyle Kennard on the other side of that, taking a lot of pressure off of any set of one-on-one matchups with the right tackle versus the left tackle. I will also say this. It's hilarious to me. And I think a year into doing this and covering South Carolina, I finally kind of understood where the fans lie with this, because you're going into a season where Lenore Sellers just ended the year and South Carolina just ended last season with 6 straight wins to close the regular season, which everyone seems to forget was the longest active winning streak in the entire SEC. Not Texas, not Bama, not Georgia. South Carolina, 6 wins. Not a ton of wins, but still. Lenore Sellers went 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in those 6 games, and they beat 4 ranked opponents, including Vandy, which at the time was a juggernaut, also destroyed A&M, and then beat Clemson on the road, and then a huge Mizzou game as well. Lenore Sellers is the best quarterback in the SEC. It's not Garrett Nussmeier. You know what happens to Garrett Nussmeier when he gets under pressure? He's like IKEA furniture. He just folds every single time. Nice. And then Lenore Sellers, you see in the biggest moments they needed him in the second half of the season, he constantly rose up to the occasion, especially in South Carolina or against Clemson. I think that Illinois game did a lot to skew the ideas that he's not an elite quarterback.
The Ole Miss game, if that game would have been 8 quarters long, South Carolina wasn't scoring a touchdown. So that's my impression of Lenore Sellers.
Yeah, did you watch the Illinois game?
Well, I didn't closely watch South Carolina because why would I?
Well, very fair. But he was pretty good the rest of the way. I will also tell you this. You're talking about this is a year removed, so it's not the same. And you're going to have a lot more road games for South Carolina, including A&M. Got to go to LSU, and they've got a tough schedule, as always. Mm-hmm. But that's a team last year that if you're really looking at it, we talk about the what ifs all the time. Well, if Bama didn't lose to Oklahoma, or this didn't happen to LSU. South Carolina lost to Bama by 2 points and got screwed by the refs out of a win against LSU. You're talking about if you want to play the hypothetical game, they could have been 11-1 last year.
I think it's funny.
Lost to Ole Miss.
we don't have Brandon Olson here to say this, but I just find it telling that national media has DJ Lagway and Florida as being a surprise team and one of the best quarterbacks in the entire nation. And a room full of SEC guys understand that they're not in the top 4. It's interesting to me. I've been saying that DJ Lagway, I don't think has a good season. I think he's very athletic. I think it's Anthony Richardson light all over the place. But it's just interesting because that'd be a name that I think other people might say. They might bring up.
To me, though, it's not about Lagway. It's about what's around them, and it's about their ridiculous schedule. I mean, all these national folks are putting out their way too early top 25s, and Florida's consistently in top 15s. And I'm like, I don't hate that if you want to weight quarterbacks more than other teams, but to act like Florida is going to be able to go on a run this year with that schedule, I just don't see it.
They could be the 15th best team and finish 7-5.
I feel the same way about Oklahoma, by the way. I think they could break out this season, but that schedule's just too daunting, I think, to make a realistic run at the playoff.
But there's this unwritten thing where we all got to gas up John Mateer. So I don't know. Are you allowed to say that, John Miller? I don't know.
I just did, buddy. I just did.
I think it helps that he's bringing his offensive coordinator with him. I think that destroys the learning curve, but that schedule is brutal. So, I mean, you could be looking at a very good season, like Jimmy said, at 7-5. You could be like, holy cow, they way overachieved with that.
Yeah, and I wish one of our Oklahoma guys was here, but their issues last year, the scheme wasn't great, sure, but no O-line, no receivers, and I don't know if they fixed that though. Yeah. So
Ole Miss sacked Jackson Arnold 9 straight plays to end the game.
Yeah, kind of gets back to what we were talking about in the first segment and Greg Sankey and the SEC. But we're getting to the point, guys, where you could have 5 SEC losses to 5 top 10 teams. I mean, you could lose to 5 SEC teams that are all in the top 10. All that means is you might be 11th. It doesn't mean that you're out of the top 25 because you lost to 5 top 10 teams. But we are getting to that point. The depth of the league is like that. Plus, the schedules are so, disjointed that some team could play 5 top 10 teams, then another team could play, 3 top 10 teams or 3 top 20 teams. So the schedule kind of drives everything. To me, that's where Texas hugely benefits right now. They're a great team. They may win the national championship even if they had a really tough schedule, but they don't. They don't play Oklahoma's schedule. They don't play Florida's schedule, and they're going to benefit from that.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
They still got to go to Ohio State, and I still think the Red River rivalry, you can't count on Texas winning that game.
They're not playing it. They're like, no, sirree. We're playing this early in the morning. Yeah.
They have to go
all right, where's Chris Gordy? Other SEC chatter that's coming up right here on the SEC Squad.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
All right. Yeah. It's your own Stephen Willis. You can hear more of that wonderful voice over on Locked On Ole Miss. Before we jump into the curious case of Chris Gordy and where this mysterious man is, who would you say is the most underrated team right now? Because we've made arguments for a few folks. It could be the Auburn Tigers. It could be, talk about an easy schedule. If they just survive to get through Georgia, the rest of the schedule up to the Iron Bowl, it's pretty manageable. We haven't talked about Auburn yet. So there we go. We made it 23 minutes before I brought them up, guys.
Hey, they have to make a bowl game this year.
100%.
That's right. That's right. He's no fool. He knows he has to make a bowl game this year, for sure.
I do think that some undervalue Auburn. I personally expect the best Auburn team in several years. I mean, I think this will be Auburn's best chance at a good season in a while. That's just the best. It's the best 1 through 22 they've had, and obviously a lot depends on Jackson Arnold. But I do think that this Auburn team now playoff talk to me is going. That's a bridge too far. Okay. But 8 wins would be a tremendous season based on what's happened at Auburn in the last 4 or 5 years. And I do think 8 wins is extremely possible if Jackson Arnold is good. He's certainly got an outstanding wide receiver core. And I do think Auburn's dangerous. Auburn could beat, I don't know about Auburn in the playoff, but they could beat a playoff team.
I will say this.
Chances to beat a playoff team. I mean, obviously they play Georgia and Bama. I don't know. Those might be the only 2 chances they get. I don't think A&M or Oklahoma are playoff teams, but maybe Baylor. Who knows?
I will say this. I think if Missouri figures out the quarterback position, they have a chance. But since I don't want to be accused of being a complete homer here, speaking of figuring out the quarterback position, why not Tennessee? Was Nico Iamaleava a top 5 SEC quarterback last year? I don't really think he was. I don't think he was terrible or anything. I think he was more average than he was, a lot closer to average than he was great last season. So to me, Josh Heupel, that system, plug another guy in there. There's another team that is being a little bit overlooked right now based on, I think, their actual odds.
Who, by show of hands, just real quick, who wanted to see John Miller be a homer there? Because I did.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
Well, would you like me to? I'll do it for you right now.
Yes, you have the floor.
Here's the thing. Eli Drinkwitz said, and he for all of his bluster and trolling, he loves trolling an opposing coach. Usually he's pretty honest with you about his roster. He loves this roster. Take that with a grain of salt if you want. But I'm telling you, you even look at the projections, Missouri, easily a top 25 team right now. They're being overlooked too.
Most of the league will be shocked at Missouri's record over the last 3 years. It would surprise everybody but Missouri fans. Their record over 3 seasons matches up pretty well, and it's kind of even hard to call them an underdog at this point.
They're like 21-5 in the last 2 years. And also, I will say this. We're going to look up and it's going to be, we're all going to be watching Hocus Pocus, some with the kids, some just me with their dog by themselves. It's a great movie. And we're going to say, wow, Missouri is 6-0. What's going on? Because they don't leave home early on. I'm very excited about that game against Kansas. I think they're going to be great against them. And I don't think they're going to have a ton of huge challenges on that schedule again, because it's the same schedule as last year. Like, they avoid a lot of big names on that schedule. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. I will tell you, I think the big surprise is probably going to be Auburn. And I hate to say it because Zach's here, and I don't like giving him compliments, especially huge threes. But that schedule is very manageable. You do get Bama at home. I don't love what you said about potentially beating Georgia as a playoff team, because I don't think they've beaten Georgia in my mind since the Clinton administration. But
I'm not picking Auburn to beat Georgia.
No,
to be clear on that.
But they have this influx of receivers that Jackson Arnold's going to have around him. Again, I've said this like ad nauseum all offseason. He was behind an offensive line last year that had 50 sacks allowed. It was 18 more than the most Oklahoma had allowed in the last decade. And they were the worst offensive lines in that category in the entire country. He's going to have a ton of talent around him. As long as he and his head coach can't have a weird public bickering fest like they did last year with Peyton Thorne, he should be good.
Yeah. What date is it socially acceptable to watch Hocus Pocus?
May 28th.
Oh my God. Never.
All the way through.
Never.
Halloween.
I'd say at least August. At least October, right? October.
That's an off season.
It's not that good of a movie.
I don't think so.
I'm not a fan.
We're starting a Locked On Halloween Disney Channel movie.
No, we're not.
Episode. Yes, we are.
I can tell you that is.
I have on good authority that's not happening.
Locked On Hocus Pocus.
Look, this is going to sound weird, and I have not been this guy ever, because every single year, this is the team that people select preseason to make a run, and it's foolish. And I'm going to tell you right now, it actually makes this the most sense to me this year, and Texas A&M is being dogged on, and here is why. They have an influx of talent. They have a coach that I actually view as very respectable. He has proven it before. He's been there. How much noise have you heard since Elko got there? Really, that was before. You haven't heard the same cultural noise as before. And I think that's a good thing. Everything's been kept in-house. I think he's a really smart, really good recruiter. I think there hasn't been this mass exodus. There's still been exodus, but not mass as it's been before. I think they've quieted the noise down. They get that situation at quarterback, and they have an offense that actually runs to their style. I actually think they can make some noise in the SEC, and I'm the first person to say that was stupid every single year when people do it. But I have to say,
and how often have we talked about quarterbacks on this squad show, and we never say Marcel Reed?
Agreed.
Is Colin Klein still their coordinator, offensive coordinator?
Yes.
Okay. I feel real good about year 2 of Marcel Reed developing in that offense.
I do too.
It's gonna take some time, some more time to kind of develop with his passing game, especially. But I think Colin Klein I think he's proving himself to be a quite the coordinator. I think we're going to see all of that come to fruition this year. But A team, obviously, I've got to throw this out there since I'm on the show. As you can tell from the logo behind me, of course, right? I'm going to be a homer. You got it. But I think based on the FanDuel projections, taking it full circle with the sponsorship today.
Please,
4.5. I think you smashed the over on the 4.5 with Vanderbilt. I think they get at least 6. And I think this is the most loaded roster they've had in quite some time, for Vanderbilt standards for that.
Got to make a bowl game.
Got to make a bowl game, like Hugh Freeze says, right?
In the words of Hugh Freeze, got to make a bowl game.
Got to make a bowl game. So, I'm going to throw it out there, but we get our conference slate started quite strongly with South Carolina on the road. So that's about as tough a test as you're going to get starting the conference slate off. So we'll see immediately if this team's for real or not. Win or lose, we'll see if they're for real.
I don't think anybody in this room beat Vandy as bad as South Carolina did last year, which is kind of crazy. Because I mean, that, like we were talking about this the other day, like they beat Bama for the first time in 40 years. They took Texas down to the wire, and people forget because Texas apparently is everyone's darling now.
That's right. They had Mizzou on the ropes too, double overtime.
Yeah,
Mizzou was top 10 at the time, I think, right, John?
Yeah, sounds about right. Mizzou definitely squeaked that one out for sure.
And Kirby Smart avoided them, so like he always does. It's like them and A&M.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up. Everybody gets 5 seconds. Yeah, Stephen Willis.
Underrated team, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin finally has a quarterback that he's extremely excited about and not playing games.
Everybody
gets
Austin 5
Simmons.
He wasn't excited about Jackson Dart? What in the world is going on? What?
Hey, Spencer Sanders. Do you not know that? Spencer Sanders. He brought Spencer Sanders in to be the starting quarterback.
But he brought 3 quarterbacks in last week.
I was just going to say the transfer portal is full of quarterbacks coming in Ole Miss. He's not excited about anybody right now, then.
No, Austin Simmons is a future 1-1 quarterback.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Wow.
Whoa.
Somebody tape that.
Is the future this season or is it in 2026?
Tape that. That's a big
deal. He's got 2 years.
That's a big deal.
He is going to be elite.
Bookmarked.
Everybody in Oxford is raving about that kid.
Well, if I know anything, fans of home teams know their quarterbacks really well. That's what I know very well.
Yeah. Peyton Thorne made it to the NFL.
Peyton Thorne. I was waiting.
Front office?
Was that to me, Clint?
Yeah, that was to you. Yeah, that was to you.
He's a regional scout, man.
All right, everybody gets 5 seconds. Where is Chris Gordy? Stephen Willis, you go first.
He is unicorn farming in South America.
John Miller.
Moonlighting as Aaron Burr in Hamilton.
That's probably close. Sasquatch expedition.
I think so. Chris Marler.
In my basement.
Okay. Corey Burton.
Deep sea expedition in the Caribbean.
Clint.
Launch pad with Bezos going on the next mission to the moon.
I think he's putting up posters of Joe Burrow and Les Miles and all other LSU folks all over his room. Yeah, thank you so much for making the SEC squad your first listen. And of course, please check out all of our local shows. We have a Locked On show for every SEC team. So be sure to give your favorite team show some love. Until next time, this has been the SEC squad.
In the basement. Is there a GIMP mask involved?
Oh my goodness.